Welcome everyone to the Delayed Game Podcast. My name is Matt Mills. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I hope that you were able to spend time with your families. We're going to take our time to go through all the NBA playoff series, look at the ups and downs, the changes that might have occurred, to check the landscape since the first round. And we're going to start with the Boston Celtics versus the Milwaukee Bucks, because I think the Milwaukee Bucks blew a great opportunity to be able to take a 3-1 lead and possibly close this series out, especially without Chris Middleton. And I think Giannis just got gassed down the stretch, trying to do it all, and needs more help from his supporting cast. Because we saw a big performance from Al Horford in the fourth quarter with 15 points to give him a total of 30 for the game. And he mentioned during his post-game interview that there was a nasty dunk Giannis did on him, and he stared him down. And Al Horford expressed that ignited a fire under him because he didn't appreciate that. And I I think that was part of it, but I think Al Horford being a big contributor helped put Boston over the top to win this game. He might have angered the wrong person. The Boston seemed to catch fire just off of Giannis's attitude and demeanor. I don't think Boston was willing to settle for it, but I will say he does need help. We didn't see much production from Drew Holiday. We didn't see much from Bobby Portis, who needs to be playing more minutes. When he's playing and is effective, we've seen what the Bucks can do, even though Middleton is out. I'll give a shout out to Jason Tatum, who actually had a pretty good game. Even though he struggled in Game 3, was able to rebound to some extent in Game 4. So, I always think that adversity shows you what you're made of. So if you're willing to come back and rebound and step up, I have to give you a lot of credit for that. But this is definitely a blown opportunity by the Milwaukee Bucks, because they could have possibly got some extra rest. They could have possibly ended this series. It still can be ended in 6, but 3-1, you definitely have a strong chance of it being ended in 6. And I think there's a chance. I haven't heard anything about Chris Middleton's injury, but there's a chance maybe he would be able to come back. So you kind of want to get as much rest as possible and hope he's back by the Eastern Conference Finals or even the Finals. But you definitely can't afford to miss those opportunities. Milwaukee was leading most of the game, and somehow in the fourth quarter, Boston just went on a run. And I think if you're Giannis, and I understand that he doesn't have much help and he's tired, but if you're Giannis, you do have to close that deal. You have to find a way to finish that game off. Tired and everything, you have to find a way to win that game, because it shifts everything if you can go up 3-1 versus 2-2 going back to Boston. So this series will be interesting. We know that Giannis does need more help, and we'll just have to see what happens. Going over the next series, also real quick before we go on to Dallas Phoenix, I do think Joker was able to win the MVP, and personally, I thought it should have went to Giannis or Embiid. The more I watch Embiid, it definitely should have been Embiid, but Giannis, to me, I think if people just don't want to continuously give it to him. I like Joker. I don't think he was that impressive, but we'll talk about that a little later when we get to the Sixers. Dallas versus Phoenix has been an interesting series, and we're seeing a very competitive series. I'll give shout out to the Dallas Mavs, because they definitely have been playing hard. I think that Brunson's been balling. He struggled the first few games, but I definitely think by game 3 and 4, they definitely rebounded. Maybe playing at home helped, but he's been doing his thing, and I think it's been very helpful for Luka to get some assistance. In reference to them going back to Phoenix, the supporting cast needs to continue to help. Smith and Dinwiddie have to continue to be consistent. I think that Dallas also, I won't say lucked up, but Chris Paul also got fouled out and was having a bad game. He wasn't able to get into a flow or even have a great contribution to the game, given how much foul trouble he was in. I will make a plug that the refs have definitely been an interesting playoffs, just off of all the reviews and just all the challenges and things of that sort, in reference to if it's a flagrant foul, regular foul. It's been a lot of involvement by the referees. I won't say if that's good or bad, but it's definitely affecting the tempo of the game. I will take the time out. They're going back to Phoenix. I know for sure Chris Paul is going to have a rebound game. I think that he's going to play angry. I don't think he's happy that he got fouled out. I don't think he's happy about what happened after the game in reference to his family with the fan. I think Chris Paul's going to come back with a vengeance. I think Devin Booker's going to do what Devin Booker does. We need DeAndre Ayton to step up. He needs to continuously be aggressive on the offensive end. He's a pretty good defender, but he just needs to make his impact on the game, especially since he has a lot of potential. So we do need him to step up to that extent. I would say the same thing for Cameron Payne and Michael Bridges. Going back home, I expect the supporting cast to step up and be able to do what they can do during this series. And Jay Crowder, speaking of supporting cast, has been doing a really good job on both ends of the floor. He's been contributing offensively. He's been, I think the worst game rebound-wise has been 6, but he's been a very good rebounder and a very good contributor on that team. I think Dallas has been very competitive, but they are not my pick to win the series. I think Phoenix has the series won, especially since Devin Booker's back. I think for me, it's a foregone conclusion that Phoenix is winning the series. I think that Dallas is respectable and a good team. They play hard. I just think they need a little bit more time, and I think they also need a little bit more talent on their team. Getting to the Warriors and the Grizzlies, it was probably the series I was the most excited about, and for me, between the refs' influence in reference to the injuries or should I say the fouling and the injuries, has, I think, diminished or tarnished the series. It was sad to see. It started off rip with Green's foul, and I think it seemed like it just went downhill from there. It's definitely a different NBA, and I grew up watching the NBA in the 90s, and I'm sure there are a lot of people listening that grew up even before that and will tell you some of the things that they call flagrant fouls or fouls were just fouls back then. I don't like players complaining about fouls. I don't like the fact that they look for fouls. I don't like this thing about the code. I don't like the premise against hard fouls. Sometimes you do hard fouls for the sake of trying to win the game. You're not trying to hurt anybody at all. So I do think these have been accidents. And I think a lot of times the younger players are taking them a certain way. And I think the Grizzlies have been dealt a very bad hand. If you look at the totality of the series, they've played 4 games so far. Basically, they lost their second best player the second game. Dillon Brooks was, I think, ejected in the first quarter. From there, was suspended the third game. Ja Morant missed the fourth game. And their center, their leading rebounder on their team, I believe, missed the first 2 games. So they have been riddled with injuries and just circumstances that I think have not had them clicking on full strength. And that doesn't even mention Desmond Bane's back injury, which he is playing, but you can tell he's been hampered. So I think going against a Golden State Warriors team who is fully healthy for the first time in at least, 3 seasons possibly? 3 or 4 seasons? I think we are seeing a Golden State Warriors team that's hungry and ready versus a Grizzlies team who's young and also ready and aggressive, but I think they're being dealt a bad hand. I fully believe after watching that game yesterday that the Warriors just have a different type of experience that they could turn it on when it mattered. And the Grizzlies just didn't have Ja Morant. Simple as that. I think that Ja missing that game possibly ruined a moment of that series being 2-2. And to take it even further, there's a chance the Grizzlies could have stole game 1, so we would have been looking at a totally different series. We would have been looking at 3-1 Grizzlies instead of 3-1 Warriors. So even though the Warriors are up 3-1, I won't even say it's been in a dominating fashion at all. They simply have closed out games while the Grizzlies have struggled with a lot of misfortune. And sometimes that's how things fall. But I definitely think they have experienced it the most out of all the teams currently in the playoffs, with just misfortune. So we'll have to see how they rebound. I do believe if Ja Morant plays, the Grizzlies will win Game 5 without a problem. Um, Let me not say without a problem because that's a strong statement. I think they'll beat. I think they can beat the Warriors in Golden State. Now, Game 6, we'll see. I personally picked the Warriors to win the series. Um, Maybe not in this fashion, but I thought Golden State was going to win regardless, just because of the experience and the fact that they are playing together again, healthy. Um, and I'm sad at how it happened because I do think we were robbed of a great series. But I do think the Warriors versus Phoenix will also be a very great series going into the Western Conference Finals. So we will see. I do hope that Ja Morant is able to get healthy. Just for his sake, you don't really want people to get injured anyway. So I hope he is able to get healthy, and I hope he is able to go out on a strong note and not have that bad taste in your mouth if he's not able to play going forward, because that'd just be a rough way to lose. So we'll see. I'm picking the Warriors, um, but I hope that we'll continue to see a good series and that Ja Morant's ever able to return. And me being a Philly native, I had to save the best for last, and that is Philadelphia versus the Miami Heat. I have to say that I thought the Sixers might be out of it the way they were looking. And I have to give a hand clap to Joel Embiid, who returned in Game 3 and 4 when I heard his concussions were rough and his face wasn't doing so well. He got a mask and he came to play Game 3. And it wasn't in his normal fashion, but I do think him being on the floor affected how Miami could obviously play defense, but I also think it inspired the team. I think it inspired the team. I think it affected how they played offense. I think it helped James Harden to be in a different role. I think Tyrese Maxey has been playing great regardless. But I do think we can't deny that Joel Embiid on the floor is a difference maker. And then to watch him in Game 4, which I could tell he was getting a little bit back into form. I think he had 23 or 24 points, which is once again great for him. And it showed me a lot to see him come back and just the impact he can have on a game and in a series. And Joker's good. He is not the MVP of the season. Joel Embiid has made it clear all season. James Harden are not dealing with the Ben Simmons debacle. He made it clear he was MVP. And I'm a Giannis fan, but it's clear Joel Embiid is MVP. And I'll go out on a limb. Joel Embiid is the best player in the playoffs currently. So I think it's highway robbery that they used analytics to give it to a man that I don't think deserved it this year at all. Joel Embiid should have been MVP this year for his performance in the regular season. And I think his performance in the playoffs reinforced it. Now, I understand it's a regular season award, but his performance in the playoffs has displayed his greatness. So I appreciate his effort. And shout out to James Harden, who actually showed up. Now, some of the experts have been critical of James Harden, saying that some of his points in the fourth quarter were after they had a lead and they weren't impactful because they didn't make any deciding contribution. I get it. I hear them. But my rebuttal is he's been in the funk since he came to Philly. He's been in the funk before that, but he has not been taking as many shots and he has not had as many 20-point games since he's got to Philly. So, and we know his track record in the playoffs in general that he struggles. So for me, in a second round series, being down, James Harden having a great game, is very helpful. I don't care of anyone's opinion that they weren't meaningful. The truth is, when you're in a funk, sometimes you just need to watch a few go through. Sometimes you just need a few things to fall into place just to change the trajectory of how you look at things. So, in my opinion, even though it might not have been, game deciding time, for a man that's been struggling to see some of his shots go through and for him to get the round out back into form, I think is very important. I think it'll be momentum for him going into the next game. I think that I watched him in that fourth quarter, and I think that energy he displayed, he looked like he was just getting the weight off his shoulders. He looked like he felt like he was getting back to him. So regardless of what analytics say or watching the game, sometimes you need that to get back to who you are and remember who you are. So I think a player who's on a new team in a new situation, he was struggling to figure out who he was. He has not been playing the same. So to see him in that moment say, "Oh, I think I'm getting it back. I think I'm getting back to who I am," I was happy to see it. He looked like he was enjoying the game again. He looked happy again. So for me, I was excited to see him do this. So I think the Sixers got all the momentum. I think the Sixers are about to go forward. I think that Miami's going to have a tough time. And then to come to find out that Kyle Lowry's ruled out for Game 5. So I truly think the Sixers could win this game. They could win this game tonight and possibly close out the series in Philly. I don't think that's so far-fetched to think. So I think the Sixers got a shot. I think it's highway robbery what happened with the MVP. I think it's ridiculous what's going on with the refs. And my biggest take, to wrap up, my biggest take for this round is, please, refs, just let them play. Call fouls that are fouls. Don't be so quick to make it a flagrant. Just let them play the game. Some of the fouls they called on Chris Paul before he got fouled out was ridiculous. Some of the fouls that I watched that get called are ridiculous. They're very quick to make things flagrant ones or flagrant twos and call technicals. I get it. You don't need to have that much impact on the game, though. Let the players play and let the best team win the game. There is no way we should know these refs' names, and the refs are the third team playing. Let the players play. Let the greatness go on the court. So I will say I've been enjoying some of these second round playoffs, but I'll continue to watch and go Sixers. I'm excited. Shout out to the Eagles, who I believe had a good draft. I know it's a little late, but the Eagles had a great draft. Welcome A.J. Brown. Shout out to my Steelers, who have drafted their next quarterback, the man of the future, Kenny Pickett. I think they're on the come up, but I think the Eagles got a shot. It's up to Hurts. They trying to put him in position to be great. But I will say, until next time, tell me in the comments what you're thinking, any thoughts that you have on the series, any input that you have. And I definitely will be following up to just give my thoughts on what's been going on in these NBA playoffs. Have a good day.